Hey guys, let's see if I can get rid of that thing. There we go. And happy Tuesday to you. You're in seventh grade. I just skipped a slide there. Little technical difficulties. I'm using a new device today. Sorry. Um, and I see now I got about 10 minutes before I got to pick up my daughter. So let's make this quick, shall we? Happy Tuesday. Sure wish I could see you guys in person through regular pod, but this is what we have for now. So let's hop into our reminders, shall we? First off, we are to the end of our student profile acronym, just our reminders of what kind of hashtag future ready students we want you to be. Remember, we use the Beavers acronym to help you remember that. The S stands for solvers of problems, which sounds awkward. Really, we're just talking about problem solvers, but we needed to have the S on the end there. And what I would hope for you and us as a staff hope for you is you're the kind of person who says, so what, now what? So I picked up that phrase from a principal in Philadelphia that I got to listen to on a training one time. And she said that she'd taken over a really difficult inner city school that had a lot of issues and problems. And there's a lot of negativity in the school. And she looked around and said, yeah, these are problems. It's not denying that, but problem solvers accept the problem and say, what can I do about it? Okay, so what? Here's the conditions we're faced with, whether it's in class with a math problem, or a science experiment, or in real life. And that's what we hope for you as our students to grow into now and in the future is people who don't just sit there and either deny problems or whine about them, but say, how can I have an impact on these things? All right. And we'll keep reminding you of those attributes of a future ready student when we get the chance. Starting yesterday, really, this says today, but that was for sixth grade. During both lunches, no more than 10 people are allowed at the lunch or in the library at one time. All right. And this has nothing to do with the cold days where we'll have to open up the gym. This is just for all weather. We wanted to start it small with 10 people and just give folks some options during that midday break where they could spend their time. If you're going to come in a huge group and make a lot of noise, the librarians have a chance to kick you out. Remember, we talked about this last week. You have to sign in, but it's in effect now. They have the sign up sheets. A few people came in today. We shall see how it goes. All right. This is the end of trimester one, as you probably knew. We're going to have conferences this week. You're welcome to come with your parents. Just remember, when I finish up with surveys, I'll send them to your teachers, and they distribute them probably through Schoology or something like that. And those surveys, as I told you last year, are pretty darn important. Sorry, the darn word there. I know I personally care about those a lot, and it helps our school grow. It really does. So remember, they're anonymous, so you can be honest and spend some time on them. No need for joke answers. Really, those just get ignored and put aside and go on to the next one. But any real impact, or excuse me, real feedback you have for us, please put it in there, and we'll see if we can make WTMS even better than it already is. All right. And then Monday, we start with a clean slate in terms of grades, tardies, and then we'll be talking later this week and early in the next about the changes you may have at the district level in terms of a kind of modified 4-day plan. So if you have questions about that, I'm going to walk you through our version of that coming up real soon. All right, guys. From there, last week we wrapped up unit one that was all about mindset and goals. Okay, we learned about the amazing ability your brain has to build new synapses, and your brain is sort of plastic in the way that if you just do something over and over again, you can build a new skill. So we talked about the importance of your paradigm of I'm not bad at this or bad at that or even wonderful at this. It's all about what you can now grow and develop with a growth mindset. Talked about the importance of goals. Kind of goes back to the Covey habits of begin with the end in mind. When you have a roadblock in the way of your goal, you got to recognize that roadblock, see if it's an internal or external one, and see what you can do about it. And the best way to overcome those is to kind of come up with those if-then plans we talked about. That if this happens, what's my next step? All right. So that's the end of this first unit for second step. Okay. And so unit two is about recognizing bullying and harassment. And as a picture, I looked for a feeling small picture because that's supposed to be a tiny person. And when people do bully and harass, they make the target of those things feel really small and powerless for a time. And people that may be a victim, I don't think that you are powerless, but it's natural when people who have targeted you in this way make you feel that way. It's hard to deal with for sure. So we're going to switch over to the 7 habits, the second step lesson. And today is all about definitions, which I think is really important because you guys know, or I've been kind of a stickler for when people overuse, especially, I don't think harassment is a term that middle schoolers use a lot, but certainly bullying is. And bullying is a terrible, real problem that occurs throughout the world. And I'm not naive to think that it doesn't occur here, but I do think it occurs less than people realize here because they overuse the term. Okay, they use bullying to be maybe meaning like just mean or rude. All right. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about bullying, harassment, what those terms really mean, and then we'll go from there. All right. If I can get to the next button, warm up. So I don't know how we'll do this with me being the delivery of this content or deliverer of this content, but in Second Step's ideal model, the homeroom teachers would be having a class discussion. We'll see what level of that we can create here as well. But they said it as a warm up to perhaps make sure that you have some class norms. All right. Here's some examples. And I'm thinking, and I have previewed this unit, but haven't looked at every single lesson, that there might be times when people want to share information that's quite sensitive or a little sensitive. Okay, and so if you do have any class discussion, think about the good rules that your health teachers, Mr. Romero and Ms. Foster, if you've had them, had set for any discussion at all, generally, but also of possibly sensitive topics. Okay, learning to disagree respectfully, don't interrupt. Okay, and if people want to say, I feel, I think, make these statements, that's totally fine. All right. Today, we're not going to get any discussion stuff, but I think that's a good warm up. And in your homeroom, maybe you kind of already have those. All right. Your teacher has class rules, I'm sure, but maybe even as a homeroom, you have some more specific ones. So if we have any sensitive discussions that shouldn't be a source of laughter or ridicule, those are the things we're trying to get rid of, really. During this unit, make sure you follow our class norms, respect the privacy of others. So if people do share a story that they want, you don't need to repeat that, or certainly in a mocking way. And if you ever have something sparked in you that you think, hey, these lessons are talking about things that I've struggled with, please contact a school counselor or any adult that you trust. All right. Now that's just a little preface to get us into the definition of these things. So take a moment, would you, and describe bullying in your own words. And homeroom teachers, feel free to pause me here in a second. So real quick, you can say, what's bullying really mean? And then what about harassment? So if there's a partner close by you want to talk to, how would you define those words? Go ahead. Teachers, you can pause me now. That's my pause face. Okay. Hopefully we were paused for a bit. Next. So I don't know what you said. If I was in class, I would have asked. That's why these videos are a little limiting. But first off, let's talk about why these things are so important to define. Because you can't, like that problem solver acronym with beavers, you can't effectively fight a problem until you know what it really is. And even overdiagnosing and calling everything bullying or harassment doesn't help. So this is a good definition. Yeah, I've seen the slight variation on this, but intentional. Okay, if people really bumped into you or something, it's closer to rudeness, really. Okay, they should have been more careful, but they weren't targeting you. Bullying is targeted at you for some reason, and it can include physical contact, words, social aggression, meaning, hey, don't talk to this person because of whatever. It can often occur online, obviously. It really, for the most part, has to be more than once. Anything that egregious, just one time, probably be closer to assault or something. And it also occurs when there's a real or perceived power imbalance, where maybe somebody is bigger, stronger, more mature, older, or there's a social imbalance. Okay, so in that way, there's a lot of conditions that have to be present for bullying. It does occur all the time. Okay, throughout the world, hopefully not too often here, but when somebody bumps into you accidentally, that's not bullying. All right. Harassment takes on a little bit different of a flavor here. Okay. Aggression against someone based on a real or perceived characteristic they have, such as their race, religion, sex, or gender. It's serious enough to create an unsafe environment and is a form of discrimination. Still targeted. Okay. There may not be an imbalance of power. Okay. But you have made probably more than once again the person feel unsafe, okay? And you maybe didn't mean to, but it is aggressive in terms of its behavior. So similar terms, certainly, and now we're going to have some practice on that. Some facts here about bullying and harassment. Did you know that 1 in 5 6th and 7th grade students reported seeing hate-related graffiti at school? So things written on the board or the bathroom stalls or on the walls or outside. Those can make people feel unsafe and not want to come to school. 1 in 3 Black students reported being harassed based on their race, which is unfortunate, but something that we as a country are still reckoning with, certainly in schools and out. And more LGBTQ high school students reported having been cyberbullied and bullied on school property than non-LGBTQ students. So it's present. It could happen to anybody, but certain groups are targeted a bit more. Okay, so those are just some things to say, often with the lesson, how does this apply to me? Well, we've all been victims of some kind with some of these behaviors. So the activity today, briefly, is to talk about some of these characters and whether you think this behavior and the things that they're facing are true bullying or true harassment. Of course, later lessons, we'll start talking about what to do when faced with these situations. So this story is about Khadija. Khadija rides the bus to school every day. Lately, some older students have been laughing and saying mean things about her hijab. That's the traditional Muslim headscarf that she's wearing. Okay? And this may not be a story that we can all relate to, but just maybe change the details and there's something different about that person, whether they're wearing something different, they look different. And lately, some older students have been laughing and saying mean things about her hijab. So is this bullying? Why or why not? And is this harassment? Why or why not? Okay, think about it for a second. And this is implied that it could be both in certain occasions. Okay, so reveal answer. Is this bullying or harassment? This is harassment because the actions are aggressive and are based on her religion, or at least they perceive that. Remember, harassment kind of has that implied, like, I'm coming after you because you're whatever, what you perceive this person to be different. These actions make the bus feel unsafe and uncomfortable for her. And that's really what harassment comes down to. Same for school. If it makes the person feel unsafe or uncomfortable, you need to stop doing it. It's also bullying because the actions are intentional. They're targeting her specifically. They are aggressive. The power imbalance, remember, the kids are older. Plus, there's more than one kid. Okay, so they're older and there's multiple kids. So the young lady is going to have a little bit harder time responding to those things. And it has been more than once. All right. And so we could talk about later what she should do in that situation, or certainly what people who have heard that and done nothing could do. But we have one more test case about Kevin. Kevin, Tony, and Mac play on the same baseball team. In the last 3 games, Kevin was benched. Darn it. Tony and Mac have since started teasing Kevin in the locker room and making rude jokes about him being benched. A couple of years ago, we faced something like this, unfortunately. So, bullying, why or why not? Is this harassment? Why or why not? Let's see. This is not harassment because the actions of the teammates weren't based on a real or perceived characteristic that Kevin has, but in his participation on the team. Okay, it was about the fact that he was benched, which is just not who he is. Okay, harassment has to have some things that are who you are on the inside, things you can't change. But bullying, intentional, aggressive, probably an imbalance of power now that they think they're starters who play a lot. They think they're cooler and been repeated over time. Okay, so it would fit that. So I wish they had some non-examples. Okay, and knowing that some things are just meanness, rudeness, we'll get in that later. But part of the wrap-up question was the difference between bullying and aggression. Okay, I would say the biggest difference is this could be based on behavior or just have no reason whatsoever. But if you're being harassed, it's because of some aspect of who you are or how people think you are. So if somebody's coming after you and thinking that because you're a different race or you're gay or a different religion, hey, that would qualify as harassment. And so some similarity, but this has at least a reason why people are doing this. This may just be kind of a, whatever, who knows why people do them, but this is because of an inherent characteristic. All right. I wanted to finish with this quote right here, if I can get to it. Sorry. There it is. And I think you can see that well enough. I don't have to start the PowerPoint. And it's from a book I really like, sad but important, called The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog. And it's about childhood trauma and abuse and what people can do to help folks overcome those. And so I love this because it just talks about the impact that as humans we can have on one another. And he likens it, the author Bruce Perry, to like fire. So fire can be warm and help people, okay? And it can quench or drown, okay? Or it can also just burn up. It can also make you feel warm, and it can cut you. So it is with human relationships. We can both create and destroy, nurture and terrorize, traumatize, and heal each other. I love that part, just the the opposites of what you can do with your words and actions, that you can make somebody's day literally by one little comment. We talked about what you do matters, and you can also ruin their day with one little comment. So that'll be good for this unit to talk about. Once we recognize these things, what are we, it's not up for the adults to make this school a kinder place, but what are you as seventh graders going to do to try to stamp out some of this bullying and harassment? All right. So talk to you about those things next week. Hopefully I can get this to turn off a little faster than I normally do. Oh, I was going to have it right there. I got to be patient. Didn't you see it come up? There it is. All right. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.